As Lee mentioned, I'll be talking about 12D Synergy 3 highlights. My name's Richard Stollier. I am the technical lead for 12D Synergy, and I've been a developer for 12D Solutions for almost 11 years now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the last 2 years, what we've been doing since the last conference. And for those of you who haven't used 12D Synergy yet or don't know too much about it, I'll briefly cover what it actually is, what you can then expect from the new version, version 3, and which will be released in August as well, and what you can expect from 12D Synergy at the conference. So it's been a pretty exciting period for us over the last 2 years, and we've had a lot of new installs across Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. And this is a list of some of the customers who've come on over the last couple of years or so, and you'll be hearing talks from groups like Oricom, ACOM, SMEC Urban, WSP Parsons Brinckerhoff, Boyers Construction, and Department of Main Roads with the Queensland Government. So we've also had some high-profile projects come on board, so North Connects, West Connects, and the Toowoomba Second Range Crossing, and you'll also be hearing about how 12D Synergy has been helping these projects going forward. We've had some new staff members come on board, and we've begun and finished development on version 3. So I'm going to introduce the new staff now, and so you know who to bother with any questions. We've got Adam Burgess, who's joined us as our senior developer, Andrew Johnson, who's joined us as a junior programmer. I see Tom has snuck up, and he's actually a 12D model programmer, and you can bother him about the plotting. On the sales and support side, we've got James Irwin over in New Zealand, Lincoln Smith, who's looking after Queensland, and Daryl Baines, who's helping us out in Europe. So they can go and relax now and have a seat. Thanks very much, guys. So, as I said, I'm going to briefly cover what 12D Synergy actually is. And it's a software package for data management and work sharing that's been designed around your workflows and data types. So the workflows and data types of the architectural, engineering, and construction office. But it's important to note that it's been designed to work both with large and small companies because you don't really need a large amount of infrastructure to run it. So when you're in an AEC office, as you all know, there's a lot of data floating around. And we're talking about things like 12D model projects, CAD files, so things like DWG, Office documents, so Word, Excel, PowerPoints, PDFs, and of course emails. And there's lots of different people working on them at different times. So it's always a real challenge to work out, are you working with the right file at the right time? And can you even find that file somewhere on your network? Or do you know what's happened to that file over a period of time? So why does this Word document or this Excel spreadsheet or this alignment look a particular way? What's happened to get it there? And it's also almost impossible to make sure that people are following your folder structures and your naming rules, all your standards. So that's really what a data management system is for, to help you do that. So 12D Synergy is there to help you track and manage your files, including details on who changed them, when they were changed, and why they were changed. And 12D Synergy does this in a Windows Explorer-like environment because that's what you're used to working with. That's how you know how to do your data editing. So we've got a screenshot up there. I'm not sure how well it's come out, but it looks a little bit like Windows Explorer. You have your folder structure on the right, although there's also some collaborative elements in there. And it's a little bit richer. It gives you a bit more information, like maps and things like that, screenshots, whatever you want to put up there. But files are accessed via a check-in, check-out system, which means that before you start work on a file, you check it out, you take a lock on it. Nobody else can edit it during that time. They can read it, so they can consume it, so they could still share in that 12D model file, but they can't touch it until you're ready to release it back to the system. And when you do that, you have to describe why you've changed it. Like, what change did you make? And the administrator can set up different questions to ask to make it simple to capture rich information. And as a result, you get that complete audit trail and history that's so important. So you can see every single change to that file, who changed it, when it was changed, and why. And you get previews as well to give you a quick glance at what's happened. So it means you don't have to maintain multiple copies of all your data yourself, and you don't have to go back to IT to look for older backups, which can be time-consuming and costly. But this system really works with any file type, doesn't matter what it is. But we do provide intelligence, integrations, and plugins for systems like 12D Model, for CAD, so BricsCAD and AutoCAD, and for the Office products like Word, Excel, and Outlook. It's important probably to really quickly touch on the 12D Synergy data structure so you know what we're talking about as we go forward. Everything's held inside the Synergy server as a job. That's basically your projects, the jobs you're working on. And below that, there's those collaborative elements like teams and tasks and things like that. And then your actual file system, your folder structures and so on. But having a well-defined structure is really important to the type of work you're doing. You don't want people just throwing data in all over the place. So 12D Synergy lets you define that required data structure. You can say every job of a particular type must have a particular data structure, and control people, don't let them change that. You can set up your naming rules for your files to make sure that people are adhering to your naming standards. You can control which files go where, so only PDFs go where PDFs should go, drawings go where drawings should go, and so on. And you can control who has access to what, so who can look at stuff, who can edit it, or who can even see that it exists. And data, a structure is great, but if you can't find that data, it's pretty useless. So we provide a real quick and easy search for a number of different elements within 12D Synergy. So that's jobs, tasks, contacts, files, and so on. And you can search for them using names, custom attributes, which are pretty much like the attributes in 12D Model, looking at file contents, or additional details like who changed it last, when it was last changed, and a bunch of other things as well. So this is how the architecture looks like at a high level when you're dealing with 12D Synergy. You have a server that you host in your office or up in the cloud, if that's what you choose, and you connect to it from a number of different applications, anything like the 12D Synergy client itself, which gives you that Explorer-like look and feel, or anything that knows how to talk to 12D Synergy, so Word, Outlook, Excel, 12D Model, and so on. And you can do that either from within your office, or if your IT infrastructure allows it, you can do it outside. So if you are seconded somewhere, you're working on a joint venture, or you're working from home, you can get in and get access to all your up-to-date data. And we have methods for taking that data out into the field offline, or when you're working in a low bandwidth environment, which I'll talk about a little bit later. It is important to talk about how you're working with Windows Explorer now and what really happens. When you are reading a file off a network drive, you're basically streaming that file into memory. So you basically have to copy that data down each time. And you don't even know what the host program's doing. It could read it multiple times. So when you're dealing with large engineering data, that can be pretty costly to your network. Not only because you have to sit and wait for it to read that data down, but everybody else on the network is impacted because you're chipping away at their bandwidth. So that's pretty significant. So 12D Synergy helps you reduce this bandwidth with what we call its intelligent data transfer tools, because it caches that data locally and it only delivers you that data when you need it. So the first time you get a file, fine, it will deliver it to you, but until it is changed again, you won't download it anymore, which actually we've worked out can save up to 90% on your download times and your bandwidth usage, which is pretty significant to everybody in your infrastructure. I should talk as well about how this fits into the geospatial world, because that's what you guys are all here for. Most data management systems that are out there on the market only deal with single files. So great, they work really well with Word and Excel and DWG and PDF. But what do you do with a system like 12D Model, like TubeFlow and so on, that have lots of files or lots of folder of files? What do? You don't really want to have to add potentially hundreds of files or delete files out of the system each time to maintain that record. And if you zip things up, then you're going to lose that granular information about what's actually happening to that data set over time. And these processes can be pretty error prone as well. So how do you track that? And that's why we introduced what we call managed folders in 12D Synergy, which are a way of managing that folder system as a single unique entity. So you can basically check that whole folder system out and deal with that independently out of the system. That means it will only deliver you the changed files since you last checked it out, and it will only upload the changed files. So it will work out automatically what's been added, removed, changed, and so on. But then you get that history, that version control, and that rollback, which means that if you want to see what happened to a 12D model project 2 weeks ago, you can get that snapshot in time and bring it down and have a look at it really easily. So then 12D Synergy is the only data management system out of the box that can deal with 12D model projects. But it doesn't stop there, because you can access all your 12D Synergy data from within 12D Model. So for example, using the file boxes in 12D Model, you can go and grab a 12D AZ from 12D Synergy. You can then see all the information about it as well. You can check your projects in and out. You can get access to all the job metadata like attributes and use them in your plots, your chains, your macros, and all those sorts of processes. And of course, you can see what changes took place when. So email's a big part of the system too, because email's a big part of your day. You're always emailing colleagues, you're emailing clients, third-party contractors, and so on. But when they're just sitting in your inbox, it can be really easy to lose track of where all this information is coming from and where it's going. So you can do that with the 12D Synergy Outlook plugin, which allows you to automatically and manually file away emails against your jobs. So it's really then easy to see every piece of correspondence about that job. And if you have attachments coming in, say like a DWG, you can save that as well, and 12D Synergy will link them together automatically and show you that link. So if, for example, you're in 12D Model and you read in the DWG from 12D Synergy and it doesn't look right, you can actually really quickly get back to the email in question. You can contact the person straight away. You can see if there are any instructions about that. You don't have to go and hunt for it in Outlook. And this sort of touches on the idea that the work that you're doing, the data you're producing, that survey and that design data and all that sort of good stuff, it's more than that. It's all those decisions and interactions around those files. So 12D Synergy helps you keep track of all that information too by letting you describe that data with custom attributes, by keeping track of those emails and communications, by letting you perform document transmittals and keeping a full register of all the documents you've sent out, so documents and drawings. So who you sent them to, how you sent them, when you sent them, and provides mechanisms for assisting with that process as well. It lets you allocate and assign tasks to your teams, and it provides forums for inter-team communications. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more in there. But I'm going to go, that's pretty much what we had in version 2. So I'm going to talk now about what's coming up in version 3. And we had 3 core focuses for version 3. We're talking about work sharing, which you'll hear a little bit throughout the conference. We're talking about getting data to and from external systems and third parties and working in disconnected or low bandwidth environments. And I'll cover 3 core features that go through each of these before I talk a little bit more about some of the other important features. So it seems to us these days that people are more and more working from different offices, but together on the same data set. And our data management tools make sure that you have the right data. And it's really important that you're all working on the same data between those distributed locations. And the data transfer tools that we've built in there make sure you can get it pretty quickly. So we already have clients using 12D Synergy to help them work share between offices, whether it's in the same country or internationally. The problem that you have with this sort of setup is that with multiple offices, you're still having to draw that data down over potentially slow links many times. So let's say, for example, you have an office in Sydney and an office in Brisbane. 5 people in the Brisbane office they're sharing in a 12D model file, right? They're all going to have to download it once. They're only going to get it once because that's what 12D Synergy does. But that could be 500, 600 megs that you're downloading across your Brisbane office. So that can have a real impact on your local and your wider infrastructure, which is why we introduced in version 3 the file replication servers. And these reduce bandwidth usage by putting a file replication server at each office, and they act as a bit of a data cache. So they can then talk to that centralized 12D Synergy server and each other to transfer data behind the scenes. So that data is actually sitting in your office waiting for you when you're ready to start work on it. So we have a bit of quite a significant replication map here crossing the globe where you've got a server in Dubai and it's talking to lots of file replication servers around the place. And those setups can get fairly complex, but we've set up the system to be pretty configurable pretty easily. And that's great, but it's important to note that this system is not just for the multi-regionals and the multinationals. If you've got a site office or an office with a slow link, bad backbone, they can really benefit by grabbing data overnight or in break times so that everybody's wait times are reduced. It's really about making sure that you guys can get to your work faster. The next system we introduced was called connectors, and we touched on this idea that production data doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's a lot more information out there. So you've got stuff a lot of the time in other systems. So critical information like accounting, contracts, invoices, contacts, all that sort of stuff often sits in a higher level system. And it can be important sometimes that you have access to that on your day-to-day job, but you don't want to have to go and ask somebody for it and stop what you're doing, and you don't want to have to go and leave whatever program you're using, like 12D Model or whatever it is, to go and get access to that data, because that's also frustrating. So we built a framework to help you get that data into 12D Synergy, so everything's at your fingertips, and we call that connectors. And we're now talking to a number of different systems to bring that data types in, so Workflow Max, Xero, MYOB Account Write, Microsoft Dynamics, SharePoint, Abstract Practice Management, and these are all things a lot of you are probably familiar with, and we're continually building up that repertoire of systems so you can get all your key important data alongside your actual production data. The third tool we introduced was called Data Sync, and this addresses the problem that surveyors need up-to-date data in the field. And the problem is that a lot of the time they're working in an environment with a really bad network connection or no network connection at all. And so the question is raised, how do you get data out to them? How do you make sure that they have the right data when they're not connected half the time? And from the customers we spoke to, people seem to use a sort of hodgepodge of different solutions. Some people are using third-party synchronization software that wasn't really written for the data sizes and data types that we're dealing with. Or they're using a tool like Dropbox, where the data ownership might be questionable and you don't really want to push large data sets up to the cloud, especially in Australia. Or they're really just walking around the office with a USB key in hand and hoping that all the tablets are actually around and they know where they are and they can copy the data on. And that can be pretty error prone. And then the problem is you have no idea who has the right data. So the new synchronization tool allows you to, on a schedule or on demand, push out data to a set of one or more tablets once they're reconnected up to the network. And then 12D Synergy takes notice of that, and it will track that and notify the survey manager when it's happened. So they've got a report on who actually has the data or doesn't, which is also really important to know. And of course, at the end of that too, once you've got all your data done out in the field, you need to be able to get that back into the office. So you can then stage that out, put it in a staging area, queue it up, and when you're reconnected to the network on a schedule, it will go back into the system. And there's a bit of a process diagram there, which shows that process of taking design data, your natural surface, any documents they need, pushing it out to the tablet. When they're ready, that goes back up into the system, maybe via a QA system, to be reintegrated. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more quickly about some of the other highlights in the system. You could already track all your contacts in 12D Synergy, everybody you're dealing with and all the details you want to know about them. But there was no real concept of companies, which is pretty important as well, because you want to know who you're really doing the work for or with. So you can now create companies, you can link up all your contacts as staff, but then you get all those great things like saying, show me all the work I've done for this company in a particular period of time, or show me all the files that I received from that company. And it's really easy to set it up and link it all together. We did a lot on email management because that is pretty key, and now when emails come in, 12D Synergy has a look at the email, it looks at who it was from, who it was sent to, and works out if it knows about those contacts. And you get those nice little contact images that you might see in Outlook normally, but you get access to all that rich data as well straight away just by clicking on them. And of course, you can then find all your emails by contacts really quickly. So show me all the emails I received from so-and-so over a particular in the last year. And of course, you can then track conversations as well. So just by looking at one email, you see that entire thread of conversation about what's happened. We introduced a system called file drops, which we had a system in version 2 called publishing. And this really addressed the problem of getting data out to people. If you've got a large data file, you can't send that by email because most of the time email limits are about 20 megs. And again, unless you want to go out to a third-party system like Dropbox, what are you going to do? So publishing was there to basically handle that for you by sending out a web link in an email. The user clicks on it. They don't need a login to 12D Synergy. They click on it, they get a browser opening up, and they can download their file over the web. And you get a notification to tell you that that's happened, which is pretty cool. But then, we started asking the question, well, how do people get data back to us? How do we receive a 500 meg, 12D model project? So that's what file drops are about. Again, you can set it up, you email out a link to somebody, they click it, the browser opens up, and they're asked to upload some files, answer some questions like what is it, and whatever additional questions you need to know about that file. Once they've uploaded it, it appears in 12D Synergy in the file system, and you get a notification to tell you that it's there. We added a Nag Screen, which is really just to make sure that people check their data in at the end of the day. If someone leaves the company, you can always cancel that check-in and people can keep working, but you want to make sure that people are updating their data on the server every day. So you can set up a policy to gently remind them to do it, or you can enforce it to make sure that they actually do it. In version 2 as well, you could register interest in pieces of information that you wanted to know about. So if there was a 12D model project or a file that you wanted to know when it was checked back in, you could say, hey, 12D Synergy, please email me. But you can't always rely on everybody to set that up, and that can now be managed centrally. So as a system administrator or job administrator, you can basically say, look, when this 12D model project is checked in, the project manager and the design engineer should be told about it straight away. We added a few things for CAD as well. We already tracked XREFs in DWGs. So as you move DWGs with XREFs around the 12D Synergy system, those XREFs don't break, which is what would typically happen in a Windows Explorer environment. But now if you have uploaded them and you haven't set up the links properly in 12D Synergy, it's very easy to go and find those very quickly. So you press a button, it shows, oh, I found all these DWGs that have broken links. Would you like me to repath them for you? And sets it all up. We also added support for AutoCAD 2016 and 2017, both in terms of the plugin and the data format, and the same for BricsCAD version 16. And look, there's a lot more, and I don't have time to go through them all, so I'm just going to throw them up on the screen really quickly. So if you didn't catch all that, then you can catch up on more details during the user talks about their real-world experiences with 12D Synergy, during some of the in-depth technical sessions and demos at the Birds of a Feather sessions, and you can come and talk to our staff at the 12D Synergy booth out in the foyer during the breaks, or you can come and harass one of the developers. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the conference, and we look forward to speaking to you more about 12D Synergy. Thanks very much.